Your homework is the assignment, the worksheet I gave you on Friday on independent and dependent variable. Independent variable, remember, is the x coordinate or the input, and the dependent variable is the output or the outcome. It depends on the input. That's how I remember which one is which. My answer depends on what I input. So dependent variable is the y. In this case, Rosarita, pet rabbit, eats 12 ounces of rabbit food every day. So the amount of, I'm going to find the amount of food the rabbit will eat each day. So the amount of rabbit food in ounces, because this is in ounces when your answer would be is in ounces, is the dependent variable. So I'm going to start with dependent variable. Let's start out with my answer. My answer, if I had to do the dependent variable, dependent quantity, I'm used to variable in the past, is the number of ounces of rabbit food. Okay, we need to remember that we need to write everything in complete sentences. That is one of the requirements for Common Core. When we answer, it's incomplete sentences. So math as we know it is not the same. I'm not used to it. As you can see, I like to not use complete sentences also. But we need to practice so we can get better at it. You and I. Therefore leaving the independent variable. So this is our answer. Our answer is, what we're trying to find out is the number of ounces the rabbit of food the rabbit will eat. Oh, forgot the word food. Sorry. Now the independent variable, well, the total amount of rabbit food that the rabbit will eat is dependent on the number of days. So because the number of days then is now called the independent variable. So we can say the independent variable or quantity is the number of days. Number 3, the amount of electricity used by light charges on a knob on a dimmer switch on the dimmer switch is turned. So the amount of electricity, so we want to know the amount of electricity, that's what we want to know. Annotate. I annotate when it gets a little bit, I should annotate the whole time. The amount of electricity used by a light charges on a knob on a dimmer switch is turned. Okay, when I read this, the amount of electricity, just by you wanting to know the amount, that's automatically the dependent variable because we want to know the amount, the answer. The answer is the amount of electricity, therefore that is the independent variable. So the dependent quantity, dependent quantity. The dependent, what our answer is, quantity is total number, is the amount of electricity sorry, it's so sloppy, I can't write correctly with this. Probably need a better pen, stylist or whatever they're called, of electricity. Remember, the dependent variable is the y. Now that leaves us, what is the independent variable? What do we need to determine the amount of electricity used? Oh my goodness. So the independent variable to determine our answer is the position of the switch. So the position of the knob or the switch determines how much light is used. So therefore the independent variable, or quantity here, sorry, is the position of the switch. I don't like this. When you turn, this position, sorry, spelled wrong. Normal. So depending on the position where you put the switch at, will determine the amount of electricity used. So independent variable then is the position of the switch. Okay, next page. Stephanie is selling Girl Scout cookies to raise money for her troop. So if you're selling Girl Scout cookies, okay, to raise money, she wants to raise money. That's what she wants to do for her local troop. For each box of cookies she sells, the troop receives $2. So each box of cookies will determine how much money she'll raise. So the independent variable here is the amount of money raised. She wants to raise money. That's the dependent variable. The outcome, dependent quantity, is the term they use here. I don't like the word quantity. I guess it's not a variable because we're not using x and y axis. The variable for dependent quantity would be the y, the amount of money raised. The dependent quantity is the money raised, or raised money. Now the independent variable then, the amount of money raised, depends, the answer is is related to the amount of how many cookies boxes she sells. So the independent variable, the x, or the quantity, the independent quantity, is the box of cookies. So we don't know how much money raised unless we know how many boxes of cookies she sold. So, okay, start out with the answer. The answer is always dependent variable. The height reached by a water-propelled rocket is directly related to amount of water pressured within the rocket. The height reached. So the word reached, you want to reach something, is the answer. It's the end result. The result. So the height reached must be my dependent variable, because that's I want to get there, how high something is. Okay, so I'm going to start with that, the dependent variable. Quantity. The dependent quantity is the height reached by the rocket, but you can just put height reached is fine. Okay. Well, let's reach by the rocket. Okay. And what determines that height reached is the independent variable, or independent quantity. And in this case, it says directly, it's the amount of water pressured within the rocket. So independent quantity is the amount of water pressure. Makes sense, I hope. An engineer opens the release gate on a dam spillway. The amount of water released, the amount of water released. So amount of water, the end result is the amount of water released from the lake increased. Okay, so you guys can finish number 6 on your own. See if you can find the dependent. This is we know we want the amount of water, therefore that's the dependent quantity. You tell me the independent. What does it need to do to get the amount of water? The answer is the independent variable. Hint. Thank you. That took me a total of 13 minutes.